I think breakthrough is a little bit too strong of a term. I'll call it, from my perspective, and I'm a glasses half full kind of guy, but I'm going to have some glint of optimism here. It was good to have the call, as you reported, between President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu. And then that was as a result of Hamas coming forward with perhaps an easing of their position with Israel. And what that really, my sources tell me, what that is essentially Hamas may be in a position where they will consider, notice I'm using my words carefully, consider that the first part of the first stage, think of it as the first 6 weeks of a negotiated settlement, would not necessarily, they would not necessarily be compelled to have Israel have or agree to a permanent ceasefire. That would allow a first 6 weeks period of time where hostages could be released, there could be Palestinian prisoners swapped and so forth. But between the United States, Qatar, Egypt, and now Israel and Hamas, I'm going to stick with the term of a glint of optimism here.
Right, cautious optimism, it sounds like. We are certainly still in the fog of war, General. Is a clearer understanding of what the future of Gaza looks like necessary to find a path forward, to understand what next Gaza looks like in this scenario?
Or what next Gaza looks like is a very interesting question, because right now Israel is about to go into a different phase, what I would call a counterinsurgency phase. I would not anticipate major strikes or major ground operations, but more counterinsurgery where they clear out Hamas. My friend and colleague David Petraeus would tell you that effectively to do so, you need to not only clear out your enemy, in this case Hamas, but you also need to hold the ground, and holding the ground would be to prevent Hamas from re-infiltrating back into those positions that you've taken. And then the third piece of this is a long-term aspect of this, Marni, where you build. That's where you bring in humanitarian assistance. That's where you provide basic services. That's where you provide governance and so forth. That's not done in weeks or months. That's done over years. Right now, the challenges and the fog of all this war is the fact that Israel is clearing, but then they're leaving. And they're leaving, pockets of opportunities for Hamas to come back into places like, in the northern part of Gaza and the central part of Gaza as well. So it's very confounding to Israel, but they've got to change their strategy, in my view. Tactical success, yes, but in order to achieve a strategic success, it's got to go all the way to the political ends to this war.
Yeah, a war of attrition, similar to what you and I have discussed a number of times when it comes to Russia and Ukraine. 9 months in since the October 7th attacks, Israel's retaliation, how has that changed the apparatus that is Hamas? Can they continue? Do they have the support? And are they still a threat to not only Israel, but others?
They are a threat. They're still a threat, as the Israel Defense Forces are seeing in certain portions of Gaza, where they've actually gone in and quote, defeated or destroyed Hamas, but they're resilient. They keep coming back. They keep recruiting some of the young men, particularly between 16 years and 25 years of age, into their terrorist organization. I would expect that to be, a prolonged effect as long as Israel is going out and trying to destroy Hamas. That's why you need these other elements of the clear hold and build strategy. But nonetheless, they're resilient, and they've determined to try to hold out as long as they possibly can to wherever Israel takes and tries to destroy Hamas positions. Once Israel forces leave, because they can't be everywhere in Hamas, in Gaza, that's where they're going to fill that vacuum. And one more point is, Israel's got a keen eye not only towards in Gaza, but they've got a very keen eye now towards the north, with Hezbollah, which is a much more effective terrorist military organization than Hamas is on the battlefield.
Right, and 200 rockets or so fired just within the last few hours into Israel from Hezbollah. How significant, one more question for you here, is Israel's latest land grab? So we're talking 5 or so miles seized, a large portion of land in the occupied West Bank. How does that factor into this?
It factors into it considerably, because first it's telling the entire region there, especially Hamas and others, that Israel will be bold and can be effective in terms not just focusing on Hamas in Gaza, but not necessarily just focusing on Hezbollah to the north in Lebanon, but also in the West Bank. The other side of that, though, there's a political challenge here. And the political challenge is where it's making it very difficult to reach back into, Palestinian Authority and others in order to be able to, come to a political decision. Marni, my bottom line here is this is not a military solution that's going to really bring peace. It's going to have to bring the political solution is going to have to really be part of this. So whatever Israel is doing militarily, be it in Gaza, be it in the northern part of Israel and Lebanon, but also in the West Bank, they've got to make sure that they look towards what strategically the implications are for a political solution here. That's really where we're going to get long-lasting peace.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.